Welcome to the February 18th, 2025 State Council meeting, 6:30, Council Chambers. We'll start with the prayer. Dear God, today as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction, which lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Join us, salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Noon.
Here.
Council Robinson.
Here.
Mayor Rock.
Here.
Council Scott.
Here.
Council Yem.
Here.
Council Belanger.
Here.
Council Chow.
Here.
Council Dakota.
Here.
Council Gitchia.
Here.
Council Janess.
Here.
Council Mercia.
Here.
Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in Docking Chamber for James F. McMahon, a member of a well-known Greater Lowell family and retired Deputy Superintendent of the Lowell Public Schools. He was the loving husband for over 63 years to Mary Ann Connolly McMahon, who survives him. Jim attended Lowell schools and was a graduate of Lowell High School, class of 1952. After high school, Jim entered the United States Army, where he proudly served his country as a corporal during the Korean War. Following the war, he received his Bachelor of Arts in Education, class of 1958, from Lowell State Teachers College, and later his Master's in Education from Salem State College. Jim began his long and distinguished career in education as a school teacher at the Bartlett Middle School. He then became the principal of the Shaughnessy Elementary School and later was named the Deputy Superintendent of the Lowell Public School System until his retirement in 2000. In addition, he taught at Phillips Academy in Andover, served as an adjunct professor at UMass Lowell, and was a probation officer for Middlesex Superior Court. Active in the community, Jim was a former member of the Lowell School Committee, the East End Club Scholarship Committee, and the Lowell Lodge of Elks. Besides his wife of 63 years, Mary Ann, Jim is survived by his 4 children, Kathleen Sturdivant and her husband Robert, Colleen Cox and her husband former city manager John Cox, Erin Hart and her husband Alan, and Jay McMahon. 6 grandchildren, 2 sisters, Ann and Mara. He was also the brother of the late Leo, Martin, Bernard, Richard, and Francis McMahon. We offer our sympathy to his family, relatives, and many friends. I'd also like to offer a moment of silence in Docking Chamber to all those who passed away since our last City Council meeting. May they all rest in peace. Amen. Thank you.
Any others? Mr. Clerk, please document the chamber. May they rest in peace. Section 2, Mayor's Business 2.1, Commute Remote Zoom Participation. Motion to accept the place on file by Councilor Chow, second by Councilor Belanger. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you, Mayor Rock. In the spirit of Black History Month, what we try to do, my colleagues and I, we try to acknowledge a member of our community that tirelessly and goes about the business that's needed and leads by example and is someone that the community can point to and be proud of. Tonight, it's my honor to acknowledge a friend of all of ours, Mr. Darren Grooms. Mr. Darren Grooms, in celebration of Black History Month, we recognize Darren Grooms for his unwavering dedication, selflessness, and commitment to the Lowell community. For nearly 3 decades, Darren has served the Lowell Fire Department, working tirelessly in various roles, advocating for his fellow firefighters through his union work, leading the department's IT division for the past decade. His deep love for his Lowell Fire family is evident in his willingness to go above and beyond, always ready to lend a helping hand. Known as a hard worker and a jack of all trades, Darren is a man who steps up whenever and wherever he's needed. Beyond his service in the fire department, Darren is a pillar of the community, using his talent as a DJ to bring people together, whether at fundraisers, school events, community block parties, or citywide gatherings. He generously donates his time and skills, never asking for anything in return. Darren's impact extends beyond his professional and community service. He's a mentor and a role model, offering fatherly guidance to children who may not have a male figure in their lives. His compassion, kindness, and generosity have uplifted countless individuals, offering hope to those who need it most. Even in the face of personal loss, he remains a beacon of joy, always willing to give. Above all, Darren Grooms is a man of faith, humility, and love. A devoted husband and father, he's the foundation of his family, embodying love not just in words, but in action. His family describes him as the very definition of love, strength, and selflessness. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of Mayor Daniel Rourke and the entire City Council and residents of Lowell, in celebration of Black History Month, we'd like to recognize Darren Grooms for his extraordinary service, generosity, and unwavering commitment to his family, friends, and community. His legacy of kindness and dedication continues to inspire all that know him. Given this 18th day of February 2025.
Podium, Gabby, the podium. Yeah. That's
Oh, man. She got me good because she didn't tell me this was happening until today. She just told me I had to be here on time. She got the grandkids up here that I was supposed to pick up tomorrow morning. So there's 2 of my 5 grandkids right there. What I got? 1, 2, 3 of my 6 daughters here. My lovely wife right here who keeps me, and she's in control of everything. Just face it. Man, that kind of, and what a perfect day is my older brother's birthday, who's passed away, and y'all got me. I've done parties for all you guys. You're very supportive of the DJ business, the karaoke business. I'm still waiting for Mr. Mayor to come and sing some songs. But, in time. We got time. What's it? The city changed my life. I came out here going to school, unfortunately being my mother's worst student, and I don't hide behind it. I did 2 years and 2 summers, and I left Lowell, but I liked the area. My kids, a couple of them were born here, and I left, I came back. She left, she came back. I ended up on the fire department in '96, and life has been great. I've had the pleasure to help people, and they let me drive a fire truck for 12 of those years, and no one said slow down. They said, if you guys know the assistant fire chief, Dave Keene, my brother, my mother took him on like a son. And, we're thick as thieves, and now I still got to hear him because now he's across the hall from me. And I hope he's listening, but because he doesn't listen. He doesn't listen. But, I mean, we've got to help a lot of people in the sin. And my mother said, get up and help somebody. That's even from her bed when she was going through dementia, she still wanted to get up and help people in the hospital, and they had to put alarms on her room to keep her from going to help the other patients, because that's what she did. So we got up and we help people, and that's what we do. So that's what Lowell does, right? Lowell has helped me a lot. My kids, the education. Even I didn't squander all of it, but I've known Corey since he was a little kid, because his father was one of my roommates. And I'm gonna leave it with that. The Brian D'Angelo called the House of the Hopeless on 3rd Ave, because we had so many people divorced, moving in and out of that apartment. And I'm not afraid to say it. I wasn't divorced. I never got married. That's my first wife. You only need one good wife, and that's the one that made it. So. That's the one that made it. Yeah, that's the one that made it. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Thank you so much. It's not every day you can get me, too.
Not being 7 o'clock yet, we'll head to general public hearings. I'm sorry, City Clerk, 3.1, minutes of the City Council regular meeting, February 11th for acceptance. Motion to accept will place on file by Councilor Dakota, second by Councilor Getchia. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Not being 7 p.m., we'll skip over the public hearing. 5, City Council motions. 5.1, Councilor Getchia requests City Manager provide the City Council with an update on MBTA property cleanup in the Middlesex Street area and the Merrimack River. Second by Councilor Janess. Councilor Getchia.
I'm going to start you off with Mayor Chow's favorite words. Motion speaks for itself.
All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.2, Councilor Getchia. Request City Manager provide the City Council with information on the Commonwealth of Massachusetts use for the property located at 475, 477 Varnum Ave. Seconded by Councilor Yem. Councilor Getchia.
Again, I'm just looking forward to the report. Thank you.
All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.3, Councilor Robinson. Request City Manager have proper department provide a current policy on whose responsibility it is, maintenance and upkeep of walkways in front of our businesses. Second by Councilor Janess. Councilor Robinson.
Motion's pretty self-explanatory. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.4, Councilor Robinson. Request City Manager have the proper department provide with information on what is a reasonable expectation of time for addressing winter precipitation on public areas utilized as bus stops for our students and residents, i.e. Eagle Park. Second by Councilor Mercier. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. This one's tough, and I know it's dependent on the storm. It's dependent on a bunch of different factors, what the manpower looks like, the equipment, everything. But I mean, it's Eagle Park. I keep referencing. It's a big patio landing area right on the corner of West 6th in Hampshire. That's used by a ton of kids for school. And I mean, some storms it's not touched until the sun melts it. Other storms, it's cleared the next day. So I think if we can develop at least a reasonable set of expectations, then I think people know what to expect. Thank you.
Councilor Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I was with the school department, we had a yearly visit with DPW on stops, school bus stops that were kind of first priority to get done early in the morning for the children. Westwood Street corridor, the Chelmsford Street corridor, but West 6 was always a problem, so it might not be a bad idea for Paul St. Cyr to meet with the transportation director of the school department.
Council Getcha?
Thank you, Mayor O'Rourke. Mr. Manager, through you to Manager Golden, can I just add to this, the City Hall parking lot out front, employees parking lot? It's got to have 8 inches of snow, ice on top of it, trying to walk through it. And I get people parking it, but they should be removed so that it can be cleared for the employees. I just hate to see someone get hurt out there, and it's pretty rough terrain out there right now.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. Council, you're absolutely right. We had a bunch of folks who were parked there trying to get off the street, obviously, and our guys, as you can tell, the main drag of it where our folks could go, it's passable. It's okay. But anyway, between those cars, we're going to have to ask everyone to not park on those lots during that time frame. And you're absolutely right. The assistant city manager and I were discussing this with Mr. St. Cyr, trying to think of which day it was because it was the longest storm we've had. I think it might have been Sunday. I think it was Sunday or Monday, saying that in our future, we're going to have to ban people from parking in there so we can get done. But you're absolutely right. It's frozen solid out there.
All in favor, say aye.
Have we put down any salt or sand at all, Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the council. We've put down as much as we can. As a matter of fact, there is a point of reference that I had asked the commissioner to put together. We had 3,200 tons of salt that was spread throughout the end of the end of Monday. We also distributed 330,000 pounds of salt, currently right to residents. Currently right now, there is a major glitch in our system, our salt system throughout the East Coast. We're getting the point where right now people are asking if we have any. And that is not the case, that we don't have addition to give. With I think most people know this. We were dropping salt, and then when the rain kicked in, washed it away. Ice came in, dropped it again. So just on this storm alone, 6,400 pounds is a lot. 3,200 tons is an awful lot of salt to be spread over this. I'm going to call it 3 days, maybe 3.5 days of a storm that was also equated to 3,642 total employee hours. So, and at the very, very end of the storm, it was Monday, we had a lot of tired folks out there trying to make it happen. So.
Do we know how many cars were towed during the storm, City Manager?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the council, that's something we can get to you. I was talking to the chief today about a dozen other things. I did speak with, there was one mishap, and I do know that one tow yard brought in 100, but that's public and private. And it was another mishap with one of our...
Actually, I had stopped my plow driver in the street and asked him how things were going. He said he couldn't get through A, B, or C Street. You have to have started beeping just so he could get through. Same thing with Forest Street.
Right.
Viola, Midland, Norcross, those streets are...
I know the council. I know the council knows this, and we do put into place a ban because what we're really asking people is to get off the streets if you can, to come down and utilize the free parking that we have. A lot of people do this, and it makes it much, much easier. But I'm quite confident we can get the numbers from the police department. And unfortunately, we're not trying to do this. LPD does a great job at trying to ring the bell, let people know to get off the street, and we're really trying to double down on this stuff. But this storm was just so long, and the fact of we're lucky. We had a good reserve of salt, so we've been spreading it, but that rain did not help. It washed it away. It's very this was one of the more challenging storms, I think, that we've had in quite some time.
Well, I understand the priority is getting the cars off the corners so those plow drivers can get through. But a lot of residents have called me that both sides of the streets, there's cars have been there since the 2 storms ago. So I think we need to have some checkers out there to look at some of these streets, and you could tell the cars that have been there for the last 2 storms, they got to go. They got to be towed. Thank you.
Council Getchia?
I just wanted to say that this was one of those challenging storms. When the weather gets under 15 degrees and throwing salt out, it doesn't penetrate like people think. It doesn't have the reactive properties. But do we have route checkers that go out and check these roads? So I guess my question is, how does that happen? If they drove over the road, they should understand, like what Councilor Dakota said, that a plow truck's not going to fit on these streets. Why would they not notify the police or try to notify the people, hey, you got to move your cars because we can't fit down these streets? But with that being said, I think they did a very good job, and if you could please thank the DPW employees for the long, hard days that they had over, and still continuing to try to move, because we're not seeing any temperatures rise where you're going to get a melt, so please thank them.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the council. Councilors, each and every one of you have called me and talked about this throughout the week. I want the residents to know that we've been, between myself and the Assistant City Manager, we appreciate the calls, because we do occasionally hear from, I know you're hearing from residents first. We try to react quickly. Some of these smaller side streets, I'm going to take the opportunity to ask people, please do not throw snow back into the street. I can't stress this enough. Please do not throw it back into the street. It causes absolute mayhem. And some of the streets, and I was there, the Assistant City Manager drove through some of the streets, and people are just blowing snow back into the middle of the street. This absolutely kills what we're trying to do, and it's pretty clear when you see, especially the smaller streets. You'll go to one street and it'll be clear as day because people didn't do that. You go to the second street and it looks as though we've never touched it. And you go to the third street and it's an ice skating rink. So what we are asking people is to be a good neighbor. If you have an ability to allow somebody to pull off onto your driveway, please do. If you can get downtown, please utilize the free garages, and it's just going to help with all of our plow drivers. And they did one heck of a job, and I will thank DPW. They know that, and this was a challenging storm, but we have a lot of good people out there, and we brought a lot of equipment in. And some of the smallest streets, we have actually less equipment out than we usually have in years past. And we've utilized salt, but as Councilor was just saying, when it gets to those 15-degree days, it's not something that's going to work like we expect it to. This weekend should be in the 40s, Winterfest. We'll talk about that later. That'll be a good time. Wear your duck boots, I think, for this weekend.
Councilor Robinson?
Thank you. If I can just add, please, for the residents, if you have the ability, if you can, clear the snow around the basin near your house. Because once we get melting, what will happen is if you don't clear that snow and that water has nowhere to drain, the temps are still going to refreeze back at night. So that puddle of water that sits on the roadway is just going to turn to ice. So I mean, by clearing those basins, it allows some of that melting to drain. So please, if you're capable of it, it's a great help to not just yourself, but to your neighbors. Thank you.
Councilor Belanger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to echo the comments from my colleagues. And Mr. Manager, I want to make sure you relay a message to the commissioner and the crews that I think an excellent job was done. I did receive a few messages from constituents, and as you stated, with the challenges on this storm, I mean, it snowed, and then we salted, and then it rained, washed away, then we had to salt again, and then it hasn't got above freezing ever since. So this is a challenging time. I think overall, excellent job was done. But that being said, I just want to give a little raise a flag and say potholes are abound. So please, as soon as you can get crews out there, they're all over the city, sooner the better. But I understand the challenges with the snow and ice in the schools. But as soon as we can address, please, Mr. Manager, thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.5, Councilor Robinson. Request City Manager have the proper department provide a detailed DPW chart, including a breakdown of divisional responsibilities. Seconded by Councilor Noon. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. Just looking for this because I know a lot of times we try to figure out who's going to be doing the bridges and walkways, who's doing the roadways. So, I mean, I think a breakdown of the divisional responsibilities will help at least people to steer constituents and understand whose responsibility is what when we're dealing, especially with winter operations. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.6, Council Mercia, request the mayor enter negotiations with the city manager and the city council in an executive session to discuss extending his contract, pay scale, etc. Seconded by Councilor Yem. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager, this motion is contingent upon if you want to stay. I mean, I can't make this motion if you don't want to stay. So you do, would you? Okay, good. So I will continue. Last week, this council and the city got an overview of the work started and will be completed in 2026 with respect to ARPA funding, ARPA being the American Rescue Plan Act. And boy, were we rescued with this money of $76 million. But it had to be used right. It had to be planned to cover only certain categories, and it had to be designated by December 31st to be qualified. No money will be returned by the city. That takes great leadership. That takes having the right people around you in place. My motion got a lot of feedback, and mostly in a positive way. I can't help agreeing with Jerry Nutter, and I have his permission to say this, when he stated that this motion was the right thing to do, and stated many examples of why: the education city, the UMass link development, etc. I had former city managers call me in favor, saying this was a great idea. The city of Lowell, Massachusetts was chosen as this first city in the United States for the Front Runner City program. Lowell did not win this title and opportunity by chance. It wasn't luck. It was because Lowell and its team, led by City Manager Tom Golden, met the qualifications which outlined our mutual commitment, objectives, our collaborative framework, followed by a plan of action, all things their committee was looking for, making us a global model for all to see. I don't want this team to one day, before we even know it, realize our leader is gone. Therefore, I made this motion to go into executive session at a future date to discuss what I'm suggesting to continue to keep this city headed in the right direction. Beaver Street Bridge reconstruction project completed and opened to traffic in August of '24, secured over $21.3 million in grant funding and $1.9 million in utility incentives to implement projects related to energy efficiency. Road pavings, 27 streets. I could go on, but I'll stop here. If there's no objection to my motion, I'd like to amend this motion and the vote to extend the contract for 3 more years. Know that his contract expires in 2027, but I want someone that is available and willing to serve long-term. I think he deserves it. I think he's the person that's moving our city in the right direction with the people that are right around him, whom I believe is facing us tonight. And I would request discussion, of course. I'm not jamming anything through. I talked to the city solicitor. I believe that what I'm doing is not against the law. The public heard this motion. They had every right to come here and speak on it. So I would request a roll call on this motion and discussion, and let's move forward. And I know that Councilor Scott had her subcommittee on reevaluation of the, the city solicitor, I don't mean the city auditor, the city clerk, and the city manager. That's an evaluation. We still can do an evaluation, but I evaluate this manager every day. I've evaluated him every time from the day he started till today. And I observe things that other people probably don't see, and I know that City Hall is closed at noontime on Fridays, but I think that's when the city manager does his best work. When everybody's gone, he's here till 8 o'clock. I know that because I've seen him leave, and I'm shocked to see that he's coming out because he worked here all day when everybody else went home. I hear the comments, oh, I work at such and such a department. The manager was there checking on us, seeing if everything's okay. You have a great rapport with those that work for this city, and I appreciate that very much. There's many things that I've observed. I just don't sit here like a mope. I do investigate, believe it or not, and I've liked what I see. So I evaluate you every day. I think that you're fair with this council. There are those who criticize or complain, and I'm probably one of them too. You never let that get in your way. You always listen to what we have to say and listen to the concerns. And I say that you have the right people around you. I could go on individually about everyone in this room that's facing me, and I'm very impressed. And poor Sean Machado, you poor angel, I drive you nuts. That's why I don't have many motions, because you have done so much for me. So that's my spiel, and I think it's only the fair thing to do. You want to discuss it, you want to reject it, but I want to vote, and I'd like this to pass, because I think the right person is in place. I know that some years ago, we had a very capable person here as a city manager. When we got into executive session, we wanted a longer commitment. It wasn't there, so that's why this person is not here. And I'm looking for a longer commitment, and that's why I made this motion. Thank you.
So motion by Councilor Mercy to amend it to a 3-year extension, seconded by Councilor Young.
Can I ask a question, just a point of order? Isn't this negotiating in public if we're starting to add terms? And should that be an executive session, or are we going to negotiate the contract in public? Through you to the city solicitor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you say amended terms, just specifically the years, correct?
The motion on the floor is to
Right.
amend to 3-year without having a negotiation back and forth.
Right.
So,
That negotiation can happen in the open floor.
okay, so we can negotiate on the open floor about a contract.
Sure.
Okay, all right, sure.
Executive session is an option if you feel as though that is the best way to go about it. If you want to do it on the open floor, you
So
can.
then we don't really need to go into executive session, we can just negotiate right here.
If that's the will of the body.
Thank you.
Any comments? Councilor Robinson?
Thank you. I've been very public on my thoughts on this, and I just want a little bit of clarification. I agree with everything that was said. I personally can speak on a dozen different times when Manager Golden went above and beyond. He easily could have shoveled something off. I mean, even something to the point where assisting a resident with getting, I believe it was like a driver's license or something. Had nothing to do, but again, I think anytime I've ever called with a concern, an issue from a constituent, he answered the phone, and he goes above and beyond. And there's no question in my mind. Everything that Councilor Mercia said, I concur for the most part. I think we have the right person in the position, and I do think something the city's been lacking and missing for quite some time is stability at the top in the executive position. And I fully support that. My only concern is timing. With so much time left on the initial contract, and all of us here, out the gate, we were all very supportive and confident of a 5-year to start. I think that was something that you don't see too often. Out the gate, hiring a manager, 5 years. We knew what we were getting into. I think we've all seen everything that we hoped for and then some. I just think, and I'd like to ask, is this the right time to be having a conversation around an extension with 26 months left? And I mean, if that's the will of my colleagues, it is what it is, and I'd hate to see us lose this asset that we have leading the city. And I agree, there's been a lot of positives that have gone on in the city in the short time Manager Golden's been in that seat. And it's not luck. It's a lot of it is the willingness to do whatever it takes to improve the entire city, whether it's our image, our standing, projects. It's one of the things that every time I speak to the manager, I get from him is, We have about 6 irons near the fire. You know what that means? That says to me, that's somebody that eats, sleeps, breathes, thinks, bettering the city. And it's a matter of juggling and putting the pieces together to get those irons into the fire. But I also think, with so much time left, do we need to consider, and I'm open to whatever. If it's the will of my colleagues, I say, let's do it. But I also want us to really step back and think, is this sending a signal to any other employees that we have with contracts that, you know, they're a great employee, so if unions start to request to come back to the table 6 months into a 3-year contract, how do we tell them no? It's more so the process as opposed to the personality, because I too agree. We have the right person, I just don't think it's the right time. Thank you.
So we first need a motion, a vote on the amended motion by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Yem. And then we can discuss if that's going to pass or not. So the amended motion, Mr. Clerk?
Can we discuss?
Councilor Noon.
Can I have a point of personal privilege? Can we discuss the motion that's on the floor beforehand?
But a second motion was made. So we have a-
Okay, so can we discuss the second motion, or is that something you rule that we can't discuss?
You want to discuss the amendment or the motion itself?
The
The motion is.
You amended a motion that we should be able to discuss before you take a roll call. The
not on-
benefits, the pros and cons to it.
The motion was amended.
Okay, so we should be able to,
Motion was amended. We haven't voted on the motion yet. We're amending the motion, Councilor, for a 3-year extension. We're not
so
voting.
shouldn't we be able to speak on that before we even get into the
You
taking
want
the
to speak on
vote?
just the amendment first.
Shouldn't we be able to
You
do
want to speak on
that?
the amendment first? If you do, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
You know, when we look at amending things 3 years, can the maker of the motion please tell me the cost to that? You know, right now, we're at a point where $264,000 salary. By the end of the current contract, it's $285,000. If the terms are the same going forward, at the end of those 3 years, it's over $320,000. I don't know where our government's going. I don't know if we're getting federal funding. I don't know if we're getting state funding. I don't know where any of this money is coming from with the way government's been running. To lock this city into those terms is tough. So I don't understand, we don't have a dollar figure, nothing, we're just going to say, let's talk about 3 years. I mean, it just doesn't, it's not fiscally responsible. And when you look at it, we raised every single rate on water, sewer, parking, and those are running in the red, even after the rate increases. We're looking at, the high school hasn't been put on yet. We're looking at all of these things. Are we willing to give every employee the same benefit? And as for what the maker of the motion said about the manager, there's no question, Mr. Manager, don't take any of this personal, because it's not personal. It comes down to every employee should work the same. We should have these expectations when we sign 5-year deals and with the amount of money that we signed it. That should be the expectation for a city manager. I don't understand how that gets to a point where, with especially $76 million in ARPA money, that's going to be gone. We created 39 positions. What are we going to do with them? I just think right now is not the time with the setting of the state. They're cutting mental health services. We're cutting home health care to the elderly. If you don't think the city of Lowell is going to see a cut, and 70% of our budget is based off of other funding coming in, I just think we have to take a step back and think on this 3-year extension without going in and negotiating the whole thing through. I think 3 years is an awful lot of an extension when you have 2 left. 44% of that original contract is still left, and we haven't seen the out years in it yet. When you look at the first year of that contract, the budget was based off of the previous manager. And so we're into 2 years, and we're saying, okay, let's lock down. And it's nothing against anybody. I think the manager is doing a great job. I just think it's not fiscally responsible to do this at this time.
Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. I share Councilor Mercia's and the rest of my councilors. I know some have not spoken yet. The sentiments that I know the manager is doing a very good job. You know, Councilor Mercia listed some of the work, and we hear the state of the city address. You know, very exciting going forward. You know, he's been working with agencies that deal with affordable housing or housing, has been very supportive of them. He's working to improve the businesses in downtown and elsewhere. He's working to increase the city, do more of the infrastructure, street, road, sidewalk, pothole, and whatnot, and so many other things. And I'm glad that he's here, and I'm glad that he say he's going to, he wants us to continue to stay here, working in the city. I'm happy for that. But really, I can't, I mean, he has 2.5 years left in his contract, you know, and I can't support the motion right now, knowing that, like I said, he has 2.5 years left in his current contract. You know, if this is 18 months left, I would support it. But you have 2.5 years left. Therefore, it's not on your performance, Mr. Manager. It's absolutely not your performance. You have assembled a very good team, and you will continue to do that work. 18 months from now, if this has become before us again, you have my full support. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Janice?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, too, would like to echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Mr. Manager, you've done a great job. Really happy you're here. I think you put a good team around you. You've been extremely responsive whenever anything's come up. I call you, I call Sean, things get done. And that's exactly what we want to see. And I am extremely thankful that you're here, and I think that the city is better off for it. However, I do agree with some of my colleagues that it's a timing thing for me. Right now, I think there's a lot of unease with our federal government and a lot of questions around what that is going to do to our funding here locally. The state, it's full of questions as well. I do appreciate the desire to take this question off the table locally, but I think that it's too big of a bite at the apple right now. I think I would be supportive of this if we gave it some time to let things settle out and understand where we're going as a country and as a state, and what that looks like for our budget. Right now, we don't have those answers. We do need a city manager, and I want that city manager to be you. But I think we just need to give it a little more time. So unfortunately, I'm not going to support this motion tonight. But if this motion does pass, my colleagues want to discuss this, want to negotiate this extension, I'd be more than happy to have that conversation, and I will support you. I just don't think it's the right time to do that right now. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, on the amended motion, roll call.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one thing to the city solicitor also through you? Can an employee in the city be signed to over a 5-year contract? Can an employee within the city be signed to over a 5-year contract?
Thank you. So the initial contract being 5 years, yes, but with an extension, yes, it would be, what's that, 8 years in total? That wouldn't violate any law.
No, the 2+ that has 2 months onto it, you add 3 to it, that comes to over a 5-year contract. Can an employee in government be signed, Massachusetts city, over a 5-year contract? Because you already have 2 left, and if you add on to a 3, that's 5 plus the 2 months. Can they do that legally?
Typically, no. So I don't know if this were to go through, what the start date would be for the extension, when that would be. None of that's been discussed at this point.
That's just
So I don't know.
That's my question for you, is just, can it be over 5 years? That's all.
Right. No, it cannot.
Thank you.
All right, so the motion on the floor to amend the motion. Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Council New.
No.
Council Robinson.
No.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
Council Gitchia.
No.
Council Janess.
No.
Council Mercia.
Thank you, yes.
Motion passes.
Is it on the motion itself, Mr. Clerk?
On the motion as amended,
Yes.
Council Noon.
No.
Council Robinson.
No.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Counselor Scott.
Yes.
Counselor Yem.
Yes.
Counselor Belanger.
Yes.
Counselor Chow.
Yes.
Counselor Dakota.
Yes.
Counselor Getchia.
No.
Counselor Janess.
No.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well deserved. All right, back to the roll call, general public hearings, sorry, not roll call, general public hearings, section 4.1, ordinance to amend a fee schedule, amend fee schedule, body art license. We have the first reading, second reading by title. Ordinance to the City of Lowell, amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 150 thereof entitled Fees by amending certain sections. Start with all those in favor. In favor. In favor. Portion of the meeting is closed. All those in opposition. 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 That portion of the meeting is closed. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I received a couple calls on this. How many businesses would be impacted by this increase currently that are operating in the city?
Thank you, Mayor, Manager, Councilors. So currently there are 3 tattoo, 1 piercing, and 2 microblading. So there's 6.
Thank you. So this proposed increase of pretty much doubling it, going from, what is it, 250 to 500 a year?
Yes. So the establishments have a fee to be an establishment, and then each practitioner has an establishment as well. So these are the fees that were put in place, I believe it was like 25 years ago, 20 years ago, when the City of Lowell started having establishments. And this is the fee for development services for the health inspectors to go out. And probably, I think it was 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago, there was an issue when Mr. Machado was the health inspector, and they had to start going out monthly to do inspections. So it became a very lengthy issue that they had to go out monthly. And now the health inspectors actually all have to be recertified, and Matt Sheehan and another inspector have to go through the whole process. And I believe they just signed up, and I think it's about $600 because Don Murphy, the past inspector that was doing it, has retired. And to pass the inspection is like a 2-day inspection that they have to take. So they have to be certified in the inspections, and they have to join a national board to do it. So it actually is very lengthy to go in and do these inspections.
And I'm not doubting the amount of work that goes into preparing our employees to do these inspections, but I've heard from a couple of the small business owners, we're talking about 7 businesses, and in a way, it is creating a hardship for them. We're doubling the fee. You have 7 small businesses. It's not, even at the doubled price, we're still pretty much operating in the negative based on what it costs for our inspectors to get certified and to do the inspections. I just think if we're trying to be economic developmentally friendly to small businesses, going from 250 to 500 on an increase for somebody that's doing part-time tattoos or somebody that's doing part-time body piercings, it's kind of a lot to ask for a small business, in my opinion. I don't know. So do we have a vote on this tonight?
It's a public hearing.
Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately, I can't support this recommended increase just because the small amount of businesses that we're putting a sizable impact on as a result of this, it just doesn't wash to me. It's 7 businesses facing a hardship as a result, and I'm sorry.
So before we stop, sorry, I should have done it before. I need a motion to adopt first. We can talk about it by Councilor Scott, second by Councilor Noon. Now we can talk about it. Councilor Dakota, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Robinson brings up a good point. I feel like we're talking about recycling and trash doubling. I would ask that the fee would go up half of that, so to $375, and then the following year to $500, just to kind of. Do we have to come back if I make that again? I would ask discussion on that with my colleagues.
I'll make a motion on it.
If we can make a motion to bring the fee up to $375, and then the following year $500. I know other cities and towns are at 7.
Motion by
8.
Council Dakota, send it back to the manager.
Please.
Second by Councilor Getchia. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Returning to the motion agenda, Council Dakota 5.7, request city manager have the health department investigate and report on Ideal Tape's immediate plan to reduce toxic emissions at the Middlesex Street facility. Second by Councilor Getchia. Council Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We should all be concerned with the report by the Toxic Reduction Institute of Massachusetts identifying Ideal Tape's location on Middlesex Street as having the second highest amount of toxic releases in relation to environmental justice neighborhoods, with the city of Haverhill coming in first. The toxins released are adhesives, which upon information and belief can cause damage to the central nervous system, resulting in headaches, dizziness, and nausea. Release of toxic adhesives may also be a cause of cancer. This report came out, and we have heard nothing from Ideal Tape. We know the toxins are in the air. Are they in the groundwater? How large an area is affected? What are the potential effects on humans and household pets? What is Ideal Tape doing to eliminate this? From their lack of response, I conclude that doing nothing. I'm asking the Health Department to provide a report answering these questions, and more importantly, I'd like to know what the Health Department recommends that Ideal Tape do immediately to reduce and eliminate the release of these dangerous toxins in the Highlands section of city.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.8, Council Belanger, request a city manager update as to potential development in the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. Seconded by Councilor Janess. Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is sort of a repetitive motion over the years, but I just want to assure the manager and his team that, you know, this district stays on the radar. We've been idle down there for a long time. I mean, there are reasons for that. COVID, interest rates, just to name a few. The last thing to happen there was a privately owned garage, which has been open just about a year now, almost. But what the spirit of the motion is, last week's financial report and the free cash, which was very good news. But when you see $2.5 million of free cash into the parking enterprise fund to subsidize the enterprise fund, largely due to this garage in the Hamilton Canal District, and it's going to continue to be a sieve for the taxpayers unless we get some development down there. It is long overdue. I know there are challenges. We've had discussions in executive session, parcels 2, 3, 4, which are essentially one parcel, parcels 11 and 12, also pegged for residential, and then we have 15 and 16, which are eyed for commercial. So where are we at with any potential leads and development? What are we doing to get shovels? Are we being proactive to recruit developers? I don't pretend it's easy, but nonetheless, I want to make sure the wheel keeps spinning and we're all rowing in the same directions down there. So, Mr. Manager, I don't know if you have anything to add tonight. I can wait for the response, but nonetheless, I just want this parcel to stay on the radar as the taxpayers need relief. And the only way we can do that is new tax growth. And that's going to help out the homeowners, as I've said time and time again. And this is where it's at. Untapped potential is there. You know, as we discussed the Front Rider City last week, we've been awarded, and that's great. But we don't know the way yet if this is going to be selected. So I don't want to put all the eggs in one basket thinking we're all set. So, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure this stays on your team's radar very much. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Getchia, you want to go first or want to go to the manager first?
I just want to make one statement. In the last session when we had the council, this was all discussed in executive session. So if we could bring it back to executive session and answer these questions, because we couldn't answer it in a response without going to executive session. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through the council. For the edification of the residents, I know this is sometimes difficult to hear or to understand, but the fact of us being in executive session, there are a number of developments that are going on, that are ongoing. There's multiple parcels and multiple developers. The city council knows this, the councilors know this, and I do fully understand because when I'm at Market Basket, people ask me all the time, you know, why is this in executive session? But just to be clear, this is a decision I believe that is the right decision to keep this in executive session. But I think on the brushing this to say that we have multiple developers, multiple parcels, and I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks, the Assistant City Manager Rose and I have been in discussions with a lot of people, and I'm hoping to come back to this council in executive session to have these discussions to find out our next moves. But point well taken. If that's okay, I'd like to keep this into an executive session, if that's okay with the council.
Yep. That's fine with me, Mr. Manager. That's all I'm looking for tonight. Absolutely. So,
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 5.9, Council Belanger. Request city manager have CFO provide a breakdown of outstanding debt for the city by fund and by type, including breakdown of all debt outstanding for Lowell High School project and all other MSBA school repair projects. Seconded by Councilor Janess. Councilor Belanger.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, again, stemming back to last week's financial report, which there was tons of good news. Your financial team is doing a fantastic job. There's no award-winning financial team, I will add. Definitely got it covered. The team around you is not my concern, Mr. Manager, but the amount of debt, I understand some is authorized but unissued. I understand that, but I'm just looking for clarification on the big ticket items such as the high school, the sewer separation project we got. I mean, the debt authorized by the council is $545 million. That is a tidy sum of money, so it's very concerning to me that, you know, the council is abreast to the strategy, how we're going to go about that, and in the name of transparency for the taxpayers, that they know where their tax dollars are going as well. So I look forward to a report there from your financial team, Mr. Manager. So again, it is very much on my mind. I'm sure my colleagues as well. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 6, communications from the city manager. 6.1A, possible lighting at Centerville mural. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. Thank you for the report, and we'll see what happens this spring. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just
Yes, Councilor Yam.
the report talking about the possibility of digging the trenches to extend the power. I would encourage the Mr. Sincere to talk to Ms. Moses, our sustainability directors. In 2021, UMass Lowell and the City of Lowell installed a 8 solar-driven LED streetlight at the Northern Canal Overlook because it doesn't have the electrical wired into it. So maybe we look at the solar-driven LED lights instead of digging the power line into that area, and it maybe cost less than digging the electricity line to it. So just my comment, and consult with Ms. Moses, our sustainability director. Thank you.
Don't forget about the fire trucks too, Mr. Manager, right? Motion response B, drafting delivery ordinance cannabis industry. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I know that pretty much we have to fall in line and be compliant with the Cannabis Commission, and I appreciate the DPD has been working with the best practices recommended from the Cannabis Commission. I believe this is something, if I could, refer to the Cannabis Subcommittee, please.
By Councilor Robinson, second by Councilor Noon. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Motion for response C, Supreme Court decisions. Councilor Janess.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the solicitor, I appreciate the report, very detailed. I wonder if you might just hit the highlights for the residents real quick, just for anyone who's not aware.
Mr. Solicitor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Normally, I like to take credit for something this impressive, but this is one of those rare times I'm not going to. So I have Assistant City Solicitor Tom Wood in the back, and I'd like for him to come up and, Tom, if you could just provide a sort of hit the highlights, as Councilor Janess said for him, that'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Manager Golden. Let me start with what I think is the most important feature with respect to the current Supreme Court, and that is the 6-3 conservative majority, which has drastically shifted how courts interpret both federal law and the United States Constitution. We've seen that in decisions like Trump versus United States, granting criminal immunity to presidents who engage in official acts. We've seen it in abortion rights cases like the Dobbs decision. But For purposes of this memorandum and this motion response, there are, by my count, at least 7 Supreme Court decisions which have a direct effect on day-to-day operations for the city of Lowell and its various departments. For today, I'll highlight just 3 examples which I think members of this committee and Lowell residents generally can take into heart. The first is Linked versus Freed, which was a First Amendment decision. And what it dealt with was specifically public officials on social media who either block or ban users or delete comments that are critical of the public official. And this obviously came up during the Trump administration. We saw cases challenging President Trump's decision to ban or delete users on social media. And so what's happened for the past several years is courts have been litigating this in the lower courts. And the Supreme Court, in this decision last term, finally set a rule that municipalities could apply in today's context. And that's that if you are speaking on behalf of the government, on behalf of a particular topic, and that you have the actual and apparent authority to do so, that if you are banning a user based on their viewpoint, it violates the First Amendment. And so in this and all other things, public officials, members of the city council should exercise caution when considering whether to block a user, to delete a comment that may be critical of someone's post. And the law department is, of course, available to answer any questions should an issue like this come up. The second case I'll talk about is United States versus Rahimi, which is a Second Amendment decision which will affect both the City of Lowell Police Department and the law department's operations. The Supreme Court has taken a drastically different approach with respect to the Second Amendment, including establishing a new rule that says for any prohibition on the Second Amendment on possession of firearms, for example, you have to go back to find an 18th century or a 19th century rule that's similar to that. So the analysis would be if you are prohibiting someone from having possession of a bazooka, you have to look back and say, well, civilians back in the 1800s didn't have cannons. And so by analogy, it's a very convoluted rule. Courts all across the country have been struggling with how to apply it. But the Rahimi case was one such decision which held that if you are someone who has a violent history, convictions for domestic violence, then you can be banned from possessing firearms. And the third decision I'll note, which members of this council are aware of, is the City of Grants Pass versus Ohio. The Supreme Court held that a municipality's ordinance banning public camping in public places does not violate the Eighth Amendment's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. Members of this council proposed, and the law department in response enacted an ordinance that complies with City of Grants Pass, and in the law department's assessment also complies with the state constitution. And as we note in the motion response, the state constitution often will provide broader protections than what is provided in the federal constitution. And so we spent a great deal of time ensuring that the ordinance complied with both federal and state constitutional law. If any of the members of the council have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, we'll defer. Thank you.
Councilor Janess.
Thank you very much, Solicitor Wood, and the whole Solicitor's Department for this response. I think it was very thorough and quite informative, and who knows what's coming next from the Supreme Court. So I'm sure this won't be the last time we have a conversation like this. We'll see what new joys this term brings, but thank you very much for the response.
Councilor Young.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Assistant Solicitor, my quick question is that I am a city councilor, but I have a Facebook page as an individual. So I post certain things, but I'm not acting on behalf of the city or speak on behalf of the city. So if somebody, make a really not appropriate comments, and I go ahead and delete it or block that person, am I taking the city with me by doing that?
That's an excellent question. I'll say 2 things in response. The first is those answers aren't entirely clear. What sometimes happens with Supreme Court decisions is they'll come out and create a broad rule. We saw that with the Bruin decision regarding how we interpret the Second Amendment now. They come out with a new rule, and they don't give a lot of clarity to the lower courts in terms of how to decide it, how to interpret it. What I will say is that the Supreme Court notably did not distinguish between a purely personal Facebook account versus an official Facebook account. So if you are speaking on behalf of the government and doing so on your social media account, then even if it's on an unofficial account, that could still potentially constitute a First Amendment violation. I will say that if you're speaking on purely an unofficial matter that has nothing to do with the government, that would not be something that, in the law department's view, would subject the city to or yourself to First Amendment liability.
Right. Even though I may put a disclaimer, I'm speaking as an individual, not any capacity, but the appearance is the appearance of the city councilor representing the city. So my concern, the appearance, so it's not the actual power I have, but the appearance that I represent the city. And that's the gray line area that...
It is the gray area, and I suspect there are going to be cases that are decided both in the First Circuit, which is where Massachusetts resides in the federal courts, and probably to the Supreme Court again, trying to clarify this standard. But of course, the law department is always available if you have a specific concern, and we're happy to answer it. Thank you, Counselor.
Great. Motion response D, local business announcements. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. Motion to refer this to the Rules Subcommittee, please.
By Councilor Robinson, second by Councilor Noon. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Motion response E, Business District, Bridge Street and 3rd Street. Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. I think this is a great idea, opportunity to invite in a member of DPD for a discussion with the Centerville Neighborhood Group when possible.
Thank you. Good. Motion response F, Rivers Edge Project. Councilor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and just thank you to Representative Elliott for responding to the city and to the senator for refiling this important legislation. It's very important that this moves forward, so thank you.
Motion response G, ban rodenticide. Councilor Gitcha.
Thank you, Manager Golden, and thank you, Mayor Rourke, for your patience in saying that word.
It's the last time we had to say it.
Thank you.
6.2, information report, problem properties. Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through the council. Council, this is a kind of an exciting opportunity, and really it's an excellent opportunity for education and to re-educate some of the folks. I don't want to put Ms. Spellenberg on the spot, but I would love for her to come up if you would like to explain what happened, or with Mr. DeJesus maybe? I'm sorry, they should have warned you that I probably would bring you up. But first and foremost, councilors, this young lady put this report together, did an excellent job as one of our interns working with Mr. DeJesus to make sure that we really started to look at this in a different manner, and really reaching out to people of problem properties to see if we can make a difference. Mr. DeJesus, I think that she may not be speaking at this point in time, but I just wanted to make sure that we are all saying thank you for her hard work. But if you could bring us up to speed as to where we are with this.
Sure. This is Haley Spellenberg. She came to me with an offer from UMass Lowell asking if she could work in our office. And her background is dietitian.
Yeah, so I have getting my master's in public health, and I'm also doing a specialization with dietetics, so it's kind of nutrition based. But for the public health portion of my master's degree, I wanted to work in the development services department, focusing on inspectional services as well as this project with Lloyd with problematic properties.
So Ms. Spellenberg had the opportunity to hang out with a couple of the health inspectors to go see some of these properties that we're talking about here. So I went into Munis and I came up, we got the most people who had the most violations, and we started with 10 all the way going down. So we had 7 of the properties that had 10 violations within between January 1st till I think August. And Ms. Haley worked on it, and we found out what the problems were with some of these properties. A lot of them were like trash, recycling, code violations that needed to be taken care of. So we sent them letters, and we asked them what would be the best way for us that we can help them out, because some of these people, some of these landlords here, like they don't live here and they don't like maintaining their property. So we kind of threatened them a little bit and asked them to give me a call. and so that we could try to help out and see what we can do for them. And they all reached out, and since November, there was no problems at any of these properties. And thanks partly to Haley for looking this up.
Manager, good.
Thank you very much, Mr. DeJesus, and especially Ms. Spellenberg. We want to say thank you very much for really putting this on the forefront. I mean, this is what this council has been talking about, and it's really trying to hold people accountable, especially what we refer to as an absentee landlord. So your work here for the city is something that's going to pay dividends for all of us in the future, and I just wanted to say thank you. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but once you got going, you were going to be fine. But to Mr. DeJesus, thank you very much for taking this project on. I think it's going to be something, once again, that's going to pay dividends into the future, and I just wanted the council an opportunity to say thank you to you, because it's going to be something that's awesome.
So I need a motion to accept the place on file by Councilor Belanger, seconded by Councilor Janess. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Councilor Belanger, you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to add, I do want to say thank you to Haley. To imagine that a service like this comes knocking at your front door. So greatly appreciated, Haley. Thank you. Problem properties can drag down a whole block, and if not a neighborhood. It's very important that we stay on this, and so we need to keep this tradition alive. I hate to lose you, but this is something we need to continue going forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to thank you for this work. This is excellent work. My question, a few questions that I have that just arise from it are around, so is this a data tracking system that we'll be using going forward to keep track of how many violations the properties have had?
Yes, we're going to keep continuing this.
Going to continue using the program. And I'm really glad to hear that they've been in compliance since November. It's February now. That's probably a good track record for some of them that have that many violations. But I do just have questions around, I believe it was Councilor Robinson that brought up the idea of like a 3-strike type of violation in the past. I don't know if we ever, I'm sure we had an answer on it, but whether or not we're able to stop allowing like building permits or some type of recourse if they don't respond to it. So, I guess that's a question for the manager. Thank you.
Manager, good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, if there's any open violations, the property can't pull a building permit. Or if taxes are owed or water bills, they're unable to pull it.
Okay, and are we still doing the inspectional walks too on a regular basis?
They'll start when the weather gets better. They don't do it this time of year.
We're going to continue with that process as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excellent. Moving on to 6.3, communication. Appointment of Lucia Walker to the Historic Board. Motion to adopt by Councilor Gitchia, second by Councilor Mercia. Roll call.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janess.
Yes.
Council Mercer.
Yes.
6.4, communications. City manager requests approval of one out-of-state travel of mayor manager. Motion to adopt by Councilor Janess, second by Councilor Mercia. Roll call.
Council Noon.
Yes.
Council Robinson.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Council Scott.
Yes.
Council Yem.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Chow.
Yes.
Council Dakota.
Yes.
Council Getchia.
Yes.
Council Janess.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
11 yeas.
7, votes to the city manager. 7.1, vote to authorize city manager to approve contracts for EPA brownfield grants. With the full reading and second reading by title. Vote, authorizing the city manager, acting through the Department of Planning and Development, to approve extended contract durations for consultant services being awarded under the city's U.S. EPA Brownfields Assessment Grant and U.S. EPA Brownfields Cleanup Grant. Motion by Councilor Gitchia, second by Councilor Young. Councilor Gitchia.
Just through you to the manager, if this contract is from October of '24, why are we seeing it now? The start date is back in October, and we're seeing it today for a vote. Why is that?
Mr. Manager, who wants it?
This would be an extent. Oh,
Is
sorry.
this for the EPA that we're
Yes,
talking
EPA.
about? Sorry about that. So we were awarded the grant, but it has taken quite a long time to it actually be executed with the feds. So it took a while for it to come to us. And we were in the process of trying to get folks under contract, and given the term, needed to bring it in front of the council, just given the length.
So as part of the grant, it had to start in October, that's why it's like that? Or could it start tomorrow if voted through and go 4 years from there? Why does it say October 24 and not?
Because we are allowed to, sorry, we were allowed to start spending. This is all EPA grants are reimbursable funds, and so we're allowed to essentially start spending as of that date, and so it allows us essentially all of that time to sort of get reimbursement based on expenses.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Counsel Noon.
Yes.
Counsel Robinson.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Scott.
Yes.
Counsel Yem.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Chow.
Yes.
Counsel Dakota.
Yes.
Counsel Getchia.
Yes.
Counsel Janice.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia. 11.
Yes.
7.2, vote, apply, accept, expend Division of Ecological Restoration Grant with a full reading and second reading by title. A motion to vote, authorize the city manager to apply for, accept, and expend preliminary design services award from the Division of Ecological Restoration for use in the city of Lowell, administered through the Department of Planning and Development. Motion to adopt by Councilor Scott, second by Councilor Noon. Roll call.
Counsel Noon.
Yes.
Counsel Robinson.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Scott.
Yes.
Counsel Yem.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Chow.
Yes.
Counsel Dakota.
Yes.
Counsel Getchia.
Yes.
Counsel Janice.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
11 yeas.
8, ordinances for the city manager. 8.1, ordinance to create new chapter 268 wage theft. Give the first reading and a motion to refer to a public hearing on March 4th, 2018 by Councilor Robinson, second by Councilor Yem at 7 p.m. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Councilor Mercia?
Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager, was there any recent incident that prompted this wage theft to be addressed?
Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through to the council. We're always vigilant about this, and the mayor had spoken about this. This is something I think is extremely important and should not be tolerated in the city of Lowell. So bringing this forward, I think, will give us some opportunity. That if we do find people that are practicing in wage theft, then the city would have the opportunity to deal with them in what I would say would be the appropriate manner, which should be debarment, which would keep them from working within the city in the future. So this is something that I think and I believe this council was in favor of to move forward on.
Oh, thank you.
9, subcommittee reports. 9.1, Order of the Clerk Oversight, Personnel Subcommittee, February 18th, 2025.
Report it next week.
Next week, Chairwoman Scott. All right. 9.2, wire inspection. New singular wireless, DBA AT&T requests installation of one wireless small cell facility on an existing pole near 11 Crowley Street. Motion to accept and adopt the accompanying order by Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Janice. Is there a roll call? No. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 10 petitions. 10.1, claim, 1 property damage. Motion to refer to Law Department for report and recommendation by Councilor Robinson, second by Councilor Noon. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 10.2, miscellaneous. Deborah Potter requests installation of a handicap parking sign at 39 Robin Street. Motion to refer to transportation engineer for report recommendation by Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Scott. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. 10.3, miscellaneous. Emil Kaufman requests permission to discuss with the council regarding the condition of the artillery piece at the Lowell War Memorial Auditorium, Boston Pilot Food Cart, and council ballot. Mr. Kaufman, you're up. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about 3 things. The first thing I want to talk about is something that's in an inglorious state of dilapidation. It was given to Lowell by Calvin Coolidge as a place of commemoration for the servicemen of World War I, a place of honor. But if you look at it now, essentially, it's desecrated. It's a rust bucket. It's always been part of Lowell's legacy and Lowell's identity, but now it's tucked in some nook and corner on the side of the Lowell War the Lowell War Auditorium. And what I'm talking about is the German howitzer that was placed there in 1925. And every succeeding generation has taken care of it. And this is probably the only time where it's allowed to be neglected in the state of disrepair. It's really sacrilegious. Now, there are various options on how to deal with it. One is to restore it, to fix it. The other option is to give it to one of the war museums at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, or Fort Meade, Maryland. Both of them have artillery museums. Now, there is a similar artillery piece in Hickory, North Carolina. They had a restoration of the howitzer and a rededication to honor the servicemen of World War I, none of whom are still alive. The last one died, I believe, in 2011. So as part of Lowell pride, Lowell history of what to do with it, Lowell is losing a lot of its connection with its own history. And if we lose it, it could be just part of another icon that Lowell loses. But I think there's very little choice. Either fix it or give it away. Give it away to one of the museums so that actually can bring it back to the state that, a state of honor that honors our servicemen that it should be. So the proposal is fix it or give it away. Are there any questions on that particular piece? Or
Manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the information brought forward by Mr. Kaufman. Thank you very much. We've been doing so much work down at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. Exactly what you're talking about is exactly what we have seen. So we're going to be looking for CPA funds. I want to let you know I don't want to speak for the council, but I don't think we want to be giving any of this away. So we'd be looking towards Community Preservation Act monies to try to bring not only those that are down by the LMA, but also the one up that's closer to the library right out our window here. So thank you very much for bringing that up to our attention.
Well, there's two other things I wanted to,
sure.
I wish to bring up. One is something that they're doing in Boston, and that is a food cart pilot program. And the underlying philosophy that they have there is to open up entrepreneurial zones, to allow people that normally can't, afford a brick and mortar or a food truck to get something going. And underlying that is when you increase foot traffic, it benefits the entire downtown area. The caveat is a lot of the brick and mortars think that the food carts are cheap and they're taking away business. But Brooklyn, New York found that there was a 20% increase in foot traffic by the, by the food carts, almost like having a McDonald's and a Burger King. They're in competition, but the fact that they're concentrated in a certain area increases the overall revenue. So it's not counterproductive. It's actually something that would benefit the downtown area. So but I guess the proposal is to establish entrepreneurial zones, and part of those zones would include food carts. There are different places where you can use for people coming from a pedestrian, kind of like working their way up to start different projects and different enterprises. So that's just a proposal that I thought that would like run by everybody. Are there any questions regarding that or?
Last topic, Mr. Koff. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councilor Dakota.
And lastly, I wish to, is that okay? The
Yes, sir, go ahead, yeah.
thing? Actually getting on the ballot to run for city council. I did try before during the last election, and what I found was that it was a kaleidoscopic kind of enterprise. Because on the one hand, they would say, well, you need signatures. And then they would look at the signatures and say, well, how come it's not printed? And there was sort of a discrepancy between whether you need signatures or whether it was just printed. Even though it seems like a minor matter, it's a major matter because the person can evaluate and says, well, I can't read the handwriting. Obviously, print is always going to be clearer. So I think that needs to be resolved. I did have somebody look at it, and they said that the requirements that were given on paper are actually different than the requirements that are posted on on the city webpage. So I guess the requirements are 150, I think, something like that you would need to get onto the ballot or more, and less on the city webpage. So I think that there's a discrepancy between what you're told and what's actually advertised. And the final analysis is kind of taking away the privilege or the right to vote. It's very disenfranchising. So I think that matter needs to be, I guess, scrutinized in a more focused way, and allow people to run constitutionally. That they're allowed to run, but they shouldn't have to jump over a lot of hurdles, and it shouldn't be confusing to the point where somebody can say, well, I can't read 5 signatures, you can't run. This is very disenfranchising, and it's really not, it's not American. It's not the American way. I guess that's about it.
Thank you. A motion to accept the place on file by Councilor Chow, second by Councilor Robinson. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Announcements. Councilor Belanger.
I got an announcement, Mr. Mayor, and it's a biggie. This coming weekend is the 25th anniversary of Lowell Winterfest. So I do want to thank all the planners, both past and present, for keeping this tradition alive and well. Festivities will kick off this Friday night. And the epicenter will be in the Enterprise Bank parking lot, where you see I have a large heated tent. It'll kick off on 6 o'clock on Friday night, which will consider of some ice sculpture on Saturday, all kinds of children's events on Saturday day, a retro disco for adults on Saturday night, as well as a disco for the children during the day on Saturday. I know Councilor Mercy is all geared up for that. So it promises to be a fun-filled event. The weather is supposed to warm up a little bit to mid to high 30s anyway, which is still an improvement. So I would like to, for starters, thank all the sponsors, as there's no taxpayer money used for this event. It's all by our paid for by our generous business community. So my message is, don't hibernate, come celebrate, folks. We all hope to see you this weekend right in downtown. We've all been cooped up a long time. Come on out and celebrate. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Young.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to pass on the comment from the resident that contacted me to thank the city for a great job in clearing the snow this past weekend. It's really tough, but this person called to say great job and want me to pass along to the manager and the employee who worked really hard over past midnight. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Mercia. All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion passes. Good night.